This was big news yesterday. We brought it to you as breaking news right here on PIX11. Harry Belafonte losing his life was more than an entertainer. He was an educator, an actor, an activist. He was a fearless advocate for justice and racial equality. And one of his last public appearances in New York was at an event in 2016 at the Riverside Church in Morningside Heights, honoring his good friend, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The struggle is still going on. The cruelty of the enemy is as great as ever. His willingness to murder, to kill, to imprison, to deny us justice.
Yeah, Mr. Belafonte, who dedicated his entire life to the fight for civil rights, was born in Harlem and never forgot his roots. So joining us this morning to share more about his life and legacy is award-winning filmmaker and historian Michael Dennis. So good morning to you, Michael. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Hazel. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's such a huge loss. Harry Belafonte, he was born in Harlem, as we said, back in 1927, but he spent his childhood in Jamaica, right? But the question is, when did he come back here to New York?
Yeah. Well, he left Harlem when he was 1.5 years old. He got hit by a car.
Oh.
And his mother felt like he'd be safer back in the native island. But he lived there until 1939, when England declared their part in World War II, and from then on he was an American citizen. Well, he's an American citizen to begin with, but lived in America from 1939 on.
But the Caribbean had an impact on him.
Oh, without question, without question. The music and the culture, the influence of Marcus Garvey, all those things added up to make him one of the world's greatest citizens, and it's a huge loss.
Yeah, I mean, his life and legacy, and when you hear his voice, you just know it automatically. So looking back, how did Harry Belafonte break into the entertainment industry? What was his first? His
Interesting
first
story.
Yeah.
He was working as an assistant to his stepfather at a Harlem apartment building, and as a handyman, and he was given a pair of tickets to see a performance with Clarice Taylor at the American Negro Theater on 126th Street. And it was his very first time seeing a live performance, a stage play, and he became mesmerized. And on his way back to say thank you to Miss Taylor, he saw that there was some difficulty dismantling the set. So he, as a handyman, jumped in and started helping, and that became his entree into theater. And it wasn't very long after that he was invited to take a role as Juno in the Paycock. All this is, and then from there he went into actor studio and all that other stuff. So,
but he was an extreme talent, a singer and actor. But why did he turn down a lot of his roles?
Because he could, quite frankly.
Yeah.
He had the success of being a popular musician. He was the first artist to sell 1 million albums. It gave him a lot of leverage in the entertainment industry. And then also I think he wanted to have this integrity about himself, where he constantly said that he didn't want to be acting in the way people perceived him.
Right.
He wanted to act from his true self.
Yeah.
So as a result, he turned down a lot of roles, but he had the leverage; he could afford to do that. And at his peak, he was Black America's first matinee idol.
Yep.
And one of America's first superstar entertainers.
Yeah.
He's an EGOT. He's got the Emmy, the
Grammy,
Tony, the Oscar,
and
the Grammy. Yes.
And he could turn down those roles, but he still gave back so much, right? And he's also, you often think of Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier in one of the same here, when they donated so much of their earnings to the civil rights movement, specifically during the 50s and 60s, right? Even risked their own lives to support it. So can you describe, I guess, his relationship looking back with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X? Yes,
he was a disciple of Martin Luther King's. Martin Luther King invited him into the movement, and he says in an interview that before that he would have been like a Malcolm X. He felt that the only way to get justice for blacks in the society would be through violence. But when he met Martin Luther King, it transformed him, and he became a lifelong disciple of him and the nonviolence movement that Nelson Mandela came to exemplify in South Africa.
Yeah, what a
So, yeah.
what a lasting impact he has made on our life. Michael Dennis, thank you again for joining us this morning and sharing so much more about Harry Belafonte.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great time to reflect on his life. I just pray that people are watching and paying attention,
Yeah.
and they can carry the torch for us all.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for helping us and shedding some light on it. Appreciate you.